welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I reject your reality and substitute my own.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss The Dungeonmaster, which came out in 1984. Directed by David Allen, Charles Band, John Carl Buechler, Stephen Ford, Peter Manoogian, Ted Nicolaou, and Rosemarie Turko. Iain, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows Paul, a computer technician who seems to have some skills with computers. He and his girlfriend are kidnapped by Mystema, the evil power of Satan. Mystema wants to pit his magic against Paul's science through 7 different challenges.
So this film actually has a fair few different titles.
Yeah.
It was released as Rage War, I believe, in the UK. I believe it even had a different title about knights of some kind.
Yeah, I think it was like the Challenges of Excalibrite or something.
Yeah. And so for the American release, they decided to call it Dungeonmaster, just because, well, Dungeons and Dragons had become very, very popular at the time.
Yeah.
And so had Tron. And so they were like, you know what, let's merge Tron and Dungeons and Dragons. And, well, we've just about got the budget for it. I know, let's break this down into an anthology movie, even though it's the same narrative running through all the different parts.
Yeah.
And we'll get a different director for every 10 minutes of the film to tell this entire story. So, you know, it's a Charles Band production, and so he literally got hold of everybody that he has worked with or would work with for the rest of their careers.
Yeah.
You know, they got in the guys from Ghoulies, the guys from Trancers, the guys from all over. And so a lot of these names you'll probably recognize from the various Charles Band productions.
Man, I wish I'd seen this as a kid. After watching this movie, part of me was just like, where were you all my life? You know, there's movies you watch as a kid that you go, man, did you ever remember watching that movie when you were a kid? Oh, it was a feeling, you know, like that feeling you got from Transformers the movie, you know, or Dark Crystal, or The Dungeonmaster. I think I would have got that feeling. I don't know if I would have got it as the same under the title Rage War, because I don't get it. But, I mean, the movie starts with Jeffrey Byron. He's a actor, I suppose.
Well, I mean, so much so that J.J. Abrams hired him for a very small role in the reboot Star Trek.
There you go, you know. But he stars in this as Paul, and the movie starts with just him lying on the bed with some pads on him, and there's a lady in red luring him away. Like, is she real, or like, is he, you know, is he hallucinating her through his dream? Does he really even wake up from his bed? I don't know, because he starts to follow her, and then she strips naked, which is a great way to always start a movie, I think. And then they get into a room and they start making out, but then some weird radioactive zombie men come in and kidnap her. No dungeons yet.
No,
You
not
know,
yet.
no dungeons
We've just started,
yet.
though. We just started.
Yeah.
But now we're at, well, I can say present day. Present day 1983-84.
Yeah.
And we find out that he's a computer whiz. He's an uber nerd.
He's a repairman.
He's a repairman, but he's like, where he works, they're like, you're going to get a promotion. You're the best man we've got on the team.
This motherfucker's got an Apple Watch and fucking Google glasses in 84.
And, you know, for a nerdy guy, he's also very athletic. I'm
Yeah.
like, this guy's the whole deal.
He runs. Like, that section where he's like, no, man, I don't need a lift home. I'm going to run. And then we watch him run and the music plays. And I'm like, yeah.
He's changing the traffic lights, you know, so he can clear a path so he can just run all the way home.
Yeah, I want to run with this guy now. Like, where is this movie going? I don't know what, like I said, what was going on with the radioactive zombies. I thought after that, I don't know, maybe that was part of the experiment that we get told later. or it was,
Well, I think it was to set up that he is, we find out when he gets home he's got a girlfriend. He's given
Yeah, he's got a girlfriend.
He's given her roses, and it sets up that she is very jealous of his relationship with his computer, Excalibrate.
Yeah.
And basically he's nicknamed it Cal.
Yeah.
So he's given it a female voice, a female personality, and so now we have this weird love triangle between two people and a machine.
Electric Dreams, dude.
Right.
Like I've seen Electric Dreams, so I could get into this weird relationship thing that they're gonna have. Because, like, the wife, well, the girlfriend, sorry, he wants to marry her, wants her to be the wife, but it's down to him talking to Excalibrate and working out the percentages of how successful their relationship is, which the girlfriend, Gwen, is just like, look, I don't like this.
Probable outcome, success.
Let's go to bed. At least that's one place I know I'll have all your attention.
Leslie Wing playing Gwen. I mean, she's going to be with us a lot through this movie. And they go to sleep. She even says, like, at least in the bedroom, that's the one place I've got your complete attention. And I'm like, whoa. And they go to bed, and we see some green fire come through his glasses.
Yeah. He ends up waking up, and the whole apartment is filled with smoke.
Yeah.
He's calling out to Gwen, and then, boom, he gets teleported out of there as well.
Yeah.
And he ends up in, like, a fiery...
Well, we'd had that bit, didn't we, where he'd woken up in a jungle, like, with this weird armor on, and he sees Gwen, and she's in a waterfall, and he starts to bang on this force field, and he looks like he's melting.
Right.
But then he wakes up in the apartment, and then gets teleported
That's
again.
right. Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, what the fuck's going on? And we end up in this canyon at nighttime. Gwen is tied to a rock, and we get greeted by Mystema, played by Richard Mole. I don't recognize him a lot. I know he's done some work in house, like behind the makeup as the dead Vietnam soldier guy. But he's primarily the voice of Harvey Dent from Batman the Animated Series and Norman from the Mighty Max series.
Nice.
He's just got this really deep, gravelly voice. And in this, they're like, here's some lines. They mean nothing, but we need you to say them.
You are a worthy opponent for Mystema. By the power of the Prince of Darkness! I dub thee Excalibrate.
And he does a good job with his line delivery. He is kind of fun to watch in a very over-the-top, chew-out-the-scenery kind of way, because he's got very little and nothing to work with, so he just lets rip with these line deliveries. He's having so much fun, and that kind of makes him like the best character.
There's a bit in the movie where he kind of blows Gwen off of a rock and then raises his arms and screams. It was great!
So the whole narrative, the whole setup for this film now is that he explains to him that I am the devil, the demon, the first evil, and I'm bored. I have defeated every challenger that's ever existed. And now your magic is different. Your magic is strange. Your magic is a computer. And I don't understand computer. So my dark, unstoppable magic versus your computer is the rest of the film. And so I've set up for you 7 challenges.
Seven.
For you to overcome. And if you overcome, I will let you and your girlfriend go. But if you lose, you both come to hell with me.
Or get destroyed. Like, it's literally, he's got to lose one challenge and Mystema, Satan, the dark evil, he wins.
I, Mystema, have devised 7 challenges. Lose one, just one, and I shall have both your souls.
But Paul's, like I said, Paul's got this wrist thing.
Well,
that he
Mystema
taps in.
gives it to him.
Yeah, literally.
It's like, have your Excalibrate computer now on wristwatch form.
So you can literally have access to all of your magic to pit against my magic. But it's really just a lot of lasers. And that's what really I loved about this movie, was as corny and as terribly low budget and stupidly edited, and just how this movie could even be considered a movie, I don't know. But it was just so fun. And when you put lasers in it, I'm all for it. You know? And then all the 7 challenges are just Paul in different locations before he'll go back and have a bit more of a chinwag with Mystema. Mystema literally does nothing but talk and whinge about his life.
Yeah, I know. I feel sorry for him.
Yeah, like I felt like, man, you are totally going to lose at the end of this. Paul's obviously the hero, but man, Mystema, I'm sorry.
I remember when I was a lad. We found a cat. It was scavenging in an alley. We covered it in coal tar, except for the face and the eyes. And then we lit the tail. Animals can be such fun.
So, but don't Paul and Gwen both get sent to, like, this frost cave where everything's frozen? We see Einstein, the Wolfman, Jack the Ripper.
A mummy, a pharaoh. It was unbelievable how they did this. Gwen starts to freeze and the room starts to become all blizzardy. So Paul falls through the floor and ends up in a tunnel. He then crawls around the tunnel for a little bit while the monsters are coming alive, being heated up by Mystema, who's trying to help Gwen as well stay alive.
Thaw her out. Yeah.
Thaw her out. And when Paul does finally crawl out of a hole inside of the set, because they're all just on sets, they're like, oh, we need to get out of here. We need something. There must be something nearby. There's an ice crystal. And for some reason, my mind went to Time Splitters. I immediately just went, that's what we do in Time Splitters. We've got to find a time crystal. And they take the ice crystal from Einstein while he's still frozen, and they throw it on the floor, and there's a terrible explosion.
And that's that challenge complete.
I was like, yeah.
I'm just going, because he explains, like, it's a room full of the world's most famous killers.
Yeah.
I was like, well, why is Einstein there? Is it because he made the nuke?
Did he
break the atom, maybe?
Is he supposed to be the odd one out to show that he's got this crystal?
The way out, maybe, yeah.
You know, unless you didn't pick up the fact that he's holding this bloody great big blue crystal thing. It was cool, but then we get chucked back to Mystema and him then obviously having his rundown with Paul. And they have such great dialogue. I mean, my particular favourite was, I will play your game. You'll play because you have no choice. I'm like, yeah, I gathered that. You know, I've been teleported from my house by the most evil being in the universe. And then Paul gets teleported to the Cave of Death. And he's confronted by these 2 zombies, I suppose, that he fights. And he decapitates one, but you see the actor fall and the head kind of just outshot, and he cuts the arm off of another one. And he walks around the corner and he comes across rat spit. Whatever the fuck rat spit is.
It's I recognized it straight away, and so I'm like, oh, this episode was clearly done by John Carl Buechler.
Oh right,
and
okay.
He's literally reusing the exact same demon puppet from Deathstalker.
I need to see Deathstalker now.
Sure, you do.
Deathstalker. Because he talks to rat spit, and rat spit's got some terrible dialogue, like I'm the controller of death or something, and I'm going to attack you with death.
To test you against that which every man must face. Death.
That's the thing that's going to kill you, Paul, is death.
And he
know?
Releases more
zombies, which
yeah.
Paul just kind of skirts around on set because he can't really run very far. And then I think he uses his lasers to defeat them.
Yeah,
and
it's always lasers.
Die. But what was really cool was the evil version of Paul that came out. and Paul gets confronted by his dead self.
Yeah.
And Mystema and Ratspit basically explain to Paul that, haha, this is your future. You are going to die. You might as well just give up now. And Paul utters the immortal lines of,
I reject your reality and I substitute my own.
I mean, that quote has lived and gone far beyond the reaches that this movie could ever imagine.
yes, yes.
Of course, it's Adam Savage from Mythbusters who uses that line all the time. It gets referenced in Japanese anime.
Yeah.
It's an awesome line. It really is.
Man, I love the fact, because I was sat there, I've seen Endgame. I know there's a multiverse. This is only one version of Paul's future. Evil can't stop this. And the fact that he just rejects it and destroys that future and then returns back again to Mystema. And, oh my God, when Mystema starts to try to buy Gwen from Paul, like,
he offers him what? He offers him just like a nebulous anything. For a night with his girlfriend.
I'll give you your freedom,
Right.
or jewels or women. But it's the way that the actor playing Mystema just kind of tilts his head and goes, wink, wink, like,
Nudge, nudge.
I'll give you everything for,
Your freedom for,
So that's it.
Oh, he wouldn't.
because I'm terribly lonely. I've got access to the entire range of time, history in the universe. My power can literally buy me anything. I'm so bored that wanking is an issue now. I need a girlfriend.
Well, he already had the ability to summon 3 nymphs, like...
I know, but it's not the same, is it?
Yeah.
Like, if you can summon women that are made out of energy, is that you just not fucking yourself because you're just using power? I don't try not to think about it because, like I said, they have their back and forth, and I think they head now to the Stone Temple.
Yeah, well, I think he gets knocked out or gets sent flying, Paul does, at some point,
yeah.
and he's knocked out, and 2 little people end up stealing his Excalibrate off his arm.
Yeah.
And we get this extended scene of the 2 of them running away with it and him chasing after them. We literally go from the same, we cut back and forth to the same location of them chasing.
It was nice to be outside.
It was, yeah. But then I'm just like, the continuity, because I'm sure in one of the shots where he's chasing after them, he's got his wrist computer back on again. Then in the next shot, he emerges and it's missing off his arm again. I was like, oh, what's going on? And the 2 of them have stolen it and they've left it on an altar.
Yeah.
Obviously been superimposed in. And he goes up to the altar and he reclaims it. And that activates the giant statue.
Yeah.
I was like, well, at least they got in the guy that did the work on Q the Winged Serpent.
Yes.
So at least the motion of it, even though it's stop motion, it looks pretty good.
It looks cool because up to this point, the other couple of worlds, like, they weren't any better. And this one now has a giant monkey firing lasers out the top of its head. And you're like, how's Paul going to get out of this situation? And...
Is it lasers?
Yes, it's lasers. Because why else? He shoots his laser into the monkey's laser and ba-boom, blows it up. And gets taken back to Mystema again.
Yep.
Mystema's starting to get just a little bit annoyed now, because his magic is supposed to be defeating Paul. We get then sent, I think it's to the present day location, which is basically there's a serial killer running around trying to, just killing women. And Paul's woken up in the alleyway. He's found a newspaper which is telling him that Gwen, who's been sent there as well, is going to die. Or is already dead, sorry. But Mystema explains to Paul, that paper's from the future. You have 1 hour to save the girl or you'll lose. I'm like...
The paper you read is tomorrow's headline. Your Gwen is alive. For now. You have 1 hour to find and save her from his cold, sharp blade. Get my point?
He finds a dead body, or he finds a woman's body on the floor, and she's been killed by the stalker. And 2 cops turn up, and you just gotta love low budget actors who, you know, only have a few seconds to deliver a few lines. And these 2 cops come up, grab Paul, who obviously he's still wearing his armor and his wrist
Armor.
Yeah, I don't know what to call it, his outfit. Like, he's wearing whatever they decide to put is. And one of the cops sees the body and they decide to arrest Paul there and then, and they don't even bother calling it in that they found a body until the next shot where they're driving in the car. They just throw Paul in the back of the car and drive away. And we keep getting this shot of this killer who's walking around his room. He's cut out like the headlines, which is like stalker, serial, you know, 4 because he's killed 4 people at the moment. He's got these scalpels that he's, you know, he likes using. I'm like, all right, okay. And we see Gwen. She's getting ready to go for an acting job. You got to remember that, because that's vital script work there, ladies and gentlemen. It will come up in a quiz later on.
Now, he manages to escape the police by...
lasers! Fucking lasers!
Exactly. Excalibur just fires lasers, heats up the handcuffs, and he throws himself out of the car as it's going around a corner, and manages to escape. And the thing is, I was sure there was a scene in the film because I was scratching my head at the logic, and he gets rid of the cops at one point.
Yeah.
He runs all the way where he thinks Gwen is. He bumps into somebody, and the first thing he says is, "Call the cops!" I was just like, really?
Yeah, that was amazing. I was already dying up to the point because when he jumped out of the police car, he'd run and hid behind some boxes and then used Excalibur to locate the different locations from the newspaper where Gwen could have died. And there were 2 possible locations. How? There's only 1 in the paper. And he's like, oh, auditorium, because she's an actress. But he's still hiding behind his box, and this cop car comes up with the light.
Yeah.
And can't even, the cop's like, nah, not behind those cardboard boxes, no way. And he just drives off, and then Paul just runs. Luckily, it had been established early in the movie that Paul was a runner. And then when he gave those lines to the guy to call the cops, I'm like, this movie's so amazing with its dialogue.
Are they still holding the audition?
Sorry, they just finished.
Hey, there's going to be a murder. Call the police.
Because this is all just bollocks, you know. Excalibur tells Paul, it's either Excalibur or Mystema, that he's got like 20 seconds until he fails his challenge. Like, how is that all timed? And he comes across the killer, and he's got Gwen, and he's trying to stab her, but there's a mirror nearby, and Paul, for some reason, can't get there, so he bounces a laser off the mirror and knocks out the killer. Runs up to Gwen. She's like, oh, Paul! He's like, Gwen... She still remembers that she was locked on a rock and she was captured by Mystema, but she has to tell Paul that luckily she got the part.
Awesome.
For the audition.
I was getting dressed and I got the part.
5 seconds to challenge termination.
And then they get teleported away, Quantum Leap style.
Well, speaking of getting the part, the entire band of Wasp has a cameo appearance in the film.
Oh, yes! I was trying to remember all the
order,
segments in my
I think
head.
this one came before or after. It doesn't really matter. It's an anthology movie. Fuck yes. It's pretty much the entire music, the music video. I think it's Tormentor. I think was the song.
Yes, because Mystema and Paul had the battle in the canyon, and Mystema had used some sound to try to fight Paul. Evil sound, I suppose, out there. And Paul had fought back with kind of 80s rock music.
Yeah.
And Mystema had said to him, you know, if you want it, have as much as you can handle. And he teleports him to the live gig of Wasp, who... You know, I'd heard of them, but they're not... Wasp aren't up there with, I don't know, Twisted Sister or fucking Ozzy, you know,
AC/DC,
Guns N' Roses, you know, Motley Crue, you know. Wasp are good.
You still know them.
Yeah, but I fucking wished I'd watched them younger, because I'd have been fucking on it. Paul just literally walks in there, there's a whole gig going on there, just playing, and... the lead guitarist of Wasp, the lead singer,
He knocked Paul the fuck out with his guitar.
he's signaling him like, look, we've got Gwen tied up here.
And he starts like
getting a machete.
and he's just sort of sliding it against her thighs.
But he's not really the guitarist. He's Mystema in disguise, because Mystema shows himself at one point, and I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, I'll check it, but I'm pretty sure he uses lasers to defeat them all.
Yeah, we'll just assume it's you just know.
And so, obviously, after we've come back from the city or the gig or one of them, you know, we've only got a couple of challenges left, and Paul is teleported to this cave, and in the cave there's this creature, and the creature starts throwing
Like
rocks.
crystals?
Yeah, he's throwing crystals that are bouncing lasers around the cave.
Yeah.
And Paul's lobbing rocks.
But the creature's really just haphazardly throwing them. It's like it's not even aiming, it's just throwing them and they're bouncing.
I don't even think the guy can see.
Probably
It's just a
can't,
mask.
no, yeah.
You know?
There's no eyes.
There's no eyes. It's just a fucking Halloween mask. And I'm feeling like it's the... Because what was even funnier was that Paul started outside of the cave and he heard a voice shout, Paul. And he was like, is that Gwen? And he goes up to the entrance of the cave and he's told by Mystema, I think, to pass the challenges to not enter the cave or something. And Paul was like, no, I can hear Gwen. And he enters the cave. And then something happens with the editing because he turns a corner in the cave and hears Gwen's voice again shout to him. And he's got this confused look on his face like, Gwen? Like he didn't realize Gwen was going to be in the cave. I'm like, you literally came in here because Gwen's in the cave.
Gwen?
But is the monster luring him in or whatever? Because they have this little rock throwing battle and he chases the creature. Oh, his Excalibrate allows him to get a certain angle to throw a rock. And he chases the creature. The creature runs away. It throws a crystal. A laser bounces off the wall, hits the ceiling, drops a rock on the creature. Which I'm like, wow, that was bad. Because the creature killed itself. And then the creature becomes an angel. But it wasn't Gwen, was it?
No.
No, that's what I was like. That's definitely
And
not...
it wasn't. I don't think it was the girl from the dream at the very beginning either. I don't know. Somebody else. An angel.
An angel. And the angel says to Paul, like, you could have left the cave. And he's like, I know. And he's like, should I have? And she's like, no, you rescued me.
You would have won by simply walking out of the cave.
I didn't know. I had no idea. There's something, anything I can do.
You've done it.
And then she disappears. And he completed that challenge. I was like, okay.
That was easy. Well, easier than this next challenge, where it's now a Mad Max Beyond Jared Sin episode of Dungeonmaster. They literally are reusing the cars here from Metal Storm, which was another Charles Band movie.
We need to see Metal Storm!
For sure. And, I mean, he's got Gwen there, and, you know, Gwen ends up with the gun and, like, aiming and shooting, and we go through the whole stages of her learning how to use the gun, missing shots before she eventually manages to land her shots and blow up the other buggies.
I thought it was cool that she had a moment, you know, that they gave her a laser gun so she wasn't constantly just tied to a rock for an hour and a half.
Absolutely,
Or an hour and 18 minutes, sorry, because the film's not long. But I love the fact that we talked about it earlier. When it cuts to the wide shots of the buggies driving, it's not Jeffrey Byron driving.
No, it's not.
Turko. The guy's got a fucking beard.
Right?
It's a beard. The guy's got a beard. And I'm like, okay. And they smash. They're like, Mystema takes control of their car, and their car drives into another car, which is exactly the same car as theirs, just driven from another angle. And if you watch closely as they crash into the car, the other car's not moving, it's parked.
Yeah.
So it's just like, we can only afford one driver. And the cars explode, but Paul is whisked back to Mystema. And Mystema is obviously not too happy that they've managed to complete every task. But there's been this whole thing through the movie about Mystema wanting these people to trust him. You know, every time he's asked them something or he's telling them that they're going to do something, they're like, really? We don't believe you. And he's like, trust me. And I'm like, you're the Lord of Darkness. Why would I even? So Paul uses reverse psychology, I suppose, on the Lord of Mystema Darkness, and says to him, like, let's have a final battle. No powers.
Well, they do have one battle first with the I don't know, it's like rotoscoped or superimposed dragons.
Yeah.
I was like, well, to be fair, like the film at one point did remind me of the Flight of Dragons, and now I'm seeing the good and the bad dragons fight each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, they decide to end it with a good old-fashioned fist fight.
I loved it because fucking Mystema's like, what are the rules? There's no rules. So I'm like, if he's the Lord of Darkness, he should totally just blast him with his lasers now and take Gwen as his queen.
Just cheat, right?
Just
you're the
fucking,
monster.
You're the dude. You're the guy. But Mystema's like, okay, we'll fight. They got him with that zap thing earlier on, didn't they? Where they said zap and he looked like he got scared.
Yeah, he was like, what is zap?
What is zap?
What is that word zapped?
It's a magic word, Mystema. If I were to zap you.
I'm like, I don't know. I don't know, Harvey Dent. Just keep talking, please. I'll close my eyes.
And so they end up in a fist fight, and he gets and Paul literally just gets the shit kicked out of him. I was like, what were you thinking here? Like, there's no way you're going to be able to beat him in a fist fight. And he literally ends up almost being thrown off the cliff face into what looks like a pool of bubbling lava.
He grabs Mystema and he starts to strangle him, and Mystema kind of uses his hand to loosen some rocks or something. I'm not entirely sure. But whatever he does allows him to get the lava out, and then Paul drops him in the lava. And he dies.
Yeah.
And then Gwen and Paul end up getting teleported back to their...
It's a good job they got magically teleported back and not just stranded there.
Yeah, wherever this location is.
And then she's like, yes, I will marry you now.
Because the computer says it's a really good thing. And then what was great was that the movie breaks down all the segments right at the end with all the titles.
Yeah, all the writers, directors of each chapter.
Directors, just in case you forgot.
See, for me, this was just wholly unsatisfying. There was no character development or progression. You know, there's so many scenes of Paul just running. There's so many scenes of Gwen just tied to that rock.
You fucking sign up for a movie not only directed by Charles Band, but 5 other people under his fucking
I didn't
development
get a
group.
single dungeon, and all I got was freaking laser beams.
Lasers! It was... Man, I totally get it. I'm totally with you that this low budget, multiple directorial, no story actual to drive any of the substance in the movie is really bad for the actors to try to act around. But I was ready. I was fucking ready. In comparison to some films that we've sat down that just have no coherency at all.
Sure.
At least this one had a start A, a start B, I suppose, and then a C, maybe a D ending. But we got there. Like, Paul's a computer whiz. He's fighting evil to save his girlfriend, and he beats him. That's the basics.
There's no moral of the story, or
there will, I suppose.
I guess it was like computers will save the day in the end.
Yeah, was it?
Computers are good.
Yeah, evil doesn't know how to write a tweet. Maybe that's why the world is the way it is, because Satan's learned to Facebook. I don't know. But all I got from this movie was terrible special effects, really bad lines and acting. But it was like watching an episode of Star Trek, 1960s, Quantum Leap, Twilight Zone, fucking just all of those. Like we said, like I'm a bit of a fan for anthologies. But at the same time, I didn't get it with this one because each one of the directors was kind of as bad as the last. And so each segment, I would have just seen every segment as being directed by the same person.
Sure, yeah, it didn't feel like there was any unique style that stood out.
No.
At least tonally, the whole film felt like it was one film.
Yeah.
Despite being anthology. Yeah. Well, Ian, did you have any favourite or memorable scenes?
I did. Fitness class, the 80s style. There is nothing more enjoyable than watching an 80s fitness class with the music going. You know, I don't know what happened to fitness over time. Maybe people just got lazy or it became easier. But I love the way that Gwen delivered her immortal lines at the end to tell the class that there would be no class the next day. And it was just like, bye, and she was gone. You know, it was just, she was just gone out the room. I'm like, wow, if I had her as a teacher, I'd be like upset. The samurai fight in the ice cave was absolutely terrible, but I loved it because you just kind of sit there going, da, 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 da. Same with the zombies, you know, him dodging round. Like, I just imagine the director saying to the person before he goes on set, Jeffrey Byron, like, look, you're going to be fighting this. Okay, where's the choreography? We haven't got any. Just wing it. And that's what they did. They wang it, I suppose. Where's Gwen? Trust me. And maybe 100 other lines from Mystema and Paul in all of their confrontations. Their dialogue sequences didn't add anything to any of the sequences because it was like a battle of wits. But it felt like Mystema was just an idiot. You know, and Paul was smarter, but not really much.
Right.
You know, just a tad, because then it just comes down to laser fights. The whole stone monkey sequence. I mean, I love a good photoshopped in the background giant monkey monster thing. And when you add lasers to it, yeah. And yeah, I think the whole wasp segment as well.
Yeah.
You know, when you just slap a rock band into the middle of your movie, yeah, it's a winner.
Yeah, I don't really have many favourite scenes. Of course, the reject your reality, sequence is gonna be up there.
Yeah.
I did also love the giant statue chase. That was fun to watch. And yeah, like you said, the Wasp band and the music and Gwen's outfit, that rock outfit. That was
she was pretty hot and bright in that movie. Yeah.
Well, Ian, do you recommend the Dungeonmaster?
Fuck yes, I do. I know it. Some people might think, well, Ian, this is bad because it's so low budget, it's so terribly acted, it's so this, it's so that. But there's a charm to this movie. There is, you know, hidden under all the layers of no budget and bad acting and script. And this is 7 people coming together to make a film. You know, and they weren't really hitting top notches before this, so I don't really know what people were expecting when they brought this out. But just some of the ideas in there, trying to coherently make it all work, just makes it fun. You know, and we talk about 80s movies all the time of just being fun at the end of the day. And I wish I'd totally fucking seen this movie as a kid, because I'd be screaming this movie from the rooftops. Like, people would be like, what's the best movie of all time? The Dungeonmaster. Why? It doesn't have any dungeons in it. It's got lasers. Wasp fucking sings halfway through the movie. The guy who does the voice for fucking Two-Face from the Batman animated series delivers some of the most terrible one-liners you'll ever hear in film, but you've heard them. So yes, you got to watch Dungeonmaster.
I honestly don't think I can recommend Dungeonmaster.
You need to watch it again, dude.
It's really disappointing and very forgettable, and I can't really recommend this mess. For sure, it reaches the so bad it's kinda good levels several times, and it does have some great one-liners and quotes, but nothing really substantial. It's really goofy, really cheap looking, with no setups or payoffs. The story challenges are boring, and the set's devoid of character, life, or interest. The performances are okay. You know, Richard Mole was clearly having a good time in the role of Mystema, the evil demon, with a great villain laugh. The music is nothing special, and the props, again, looking very cheap and goofy, along with the special effects. But I will say the makeup and monsters are pretty good. I'm always happy to see the works of John Carl Buechler in any capacity, even if it is reused creations. The film's story is really simple and it's very lacking. The pacing feels incredibly padded with lots of running shots, and the conclusion just felt very unsatisfactory. Bonus points for having Wasp cameo, though maybe watch this with some beers, you know, I couldn't recommend this. It is low-grade B-movie fun, with a few good moments that stand out. You know, he may be the overlord of strange beasts and stolen souls, but not of good movies.
Lasers!
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
All right, I'll play your game.
You are playing because you have no choice.
Good point.